Hello and welcome to one of my first attempts at pre-recorded lecture material for class. Today I want to introduce you to this fabulous lady. Some of you may already know who she is and be irritated by her straight away. Others floundering, not a clue who she is. But let's just take a look at this fantastic pose that seems to irk lots of different people. So who is she? This particular footballer, activist, businesswoman is Megan Rapinoe. And here are some interesting, or what I think are interesting facts, figures around both her and her playing career. But what I'm hoping to do with this case study is to tease out some of the larger sort of sociological issues, such as politics, race, gender, and class. So who is she? First and foremost, she's an athlete. She's been playing soccer for over 15 years, plays in Washington City. She's the captain and co-captain, it's been a dual position, of the USA women's football team. She's a twin sister who also plays football, not necessarily to the same degree, but still very active and involved. They run summer camps for girls that are extremely successful all over the country. Her achievements, without doing a list, okay? My intention is not to focus on who won what, how many times, what number of assists actually took place. I'm more interested in the broader issues around this particular person. So she has an Olympic medal. She has 2 World Cup gold medals, 1 silver. She won the Golden Boot. And as we've already seen from that fabulous photo, the Ballon d'Or. And that's something I'm going to bring you back to later on. So again, a businesswoman. She's also gay. She's been in a relationship with Sue Bird, the WNBA basketball player, for the previous 2 to 3 years. And she's become a political advocate. And interestingly, not just for football, not just for women in sport, but broader, bigger, more socio-political issues. Her background is fairly standard. She grew up in California. She was one of 5 children, had a twin sister Rachel, a drug addict brother. I throw that in there because I'm going to lead you to some other things later on, the Sports Illustrated article in the main for you to have a read of, which kind of teases out maybe some of where her thoughts and ideas have come around speaking up when you have a voice. Started playing football in high school. Her father coached her, realised that they both her and her sister, had quite a large amount of talent. Went on to the University of Portland, and what could have been a really shining career move for her ended up with 2 major ACL injuries. But it also gave her time to reflect on other aspects of her life, and it was here and at this time that she came out as a gay woman to her parents. She moved through, you can see the list of teams. I don't need to read these out for you, you can see them. But she's currently and has been in Seattle since 2013. The little point around the dispute about money is going to come up later on, but just remember this, that the average salary, which is generally capped for female footballers, is only $25,000. Now just keep that in mind. So again, just to mention her career, the boot, just to highlight it in the corner, comes from her sponsorship with Nike. We'll talk about that at another date. But she plays as a winger, she captains the teams. You can see the accolades there, you can see what they look like. And since 2018, she co-captains the team alongside Carly Lloyd and Alex Morgan. And anybody who knows anything about female football will have heard those names. Her personal life has been fairly straightforward in the sense that she came out early as gay. She owned her own sexuality. She came out to her parents and she brought it throughout her athletic career. Now, I'm not posting up that image to be provocative. I'm also not posting it up just to give people a quick look at some naked women. The reason for it is that they pose nude together for the cover of ESPN. That might not sound like much, and I'll go back to that, but if I were you, I'd just take the time to Google ESPN and sort of see the type of covers that have been done before. And remember also, it's a same-sex couple in America, and that's not always seen to be okay. So she's become a sort of natural advocate, obviously, for the LGBTQ plus organisation. And I say obviously, it's not obvious. There was nothing to say that she had to do this, that, just because she was out and proud of that she needed to own that for other people. She didn't. She just sort of felt that because of the fact that she had a voice, she had a platform, that she could use it. This follows on to bigger social issues. So in 2016, the NFL player, American football player, Colin Kaepernick, some of you will have heard of him, some of you won't, and you can look him up. We'll be looking at him again in a few weeks' time. She took the knee in support. She sort of felt at this point that she could identify with some of the issues that he was highlighting, because as a gay woman in white, middle-class, suburban America, the American flag doesn't, particularly from a Republican perspective, doesn't necessarily protect her or even all her liberties, never mind those of Black Americans, which we're seeing obviously in the protests around the Black Lives Matter, another topic we'll get to again. The equal pay topic has been one that's been kind of thrown around in the press as, women just crying looking for some more money, but it was never about that. If you just look at the last paragraph and have a read of it, if you have a league that is capped, and think about the Premier League, and think about the wages, and think about the fact that on a team of 20 players, I know there's more than, roughly I'm talking about the subs and so on and so forth, and just say we have 20. How many of them are on the top earning rung of the ladder? And how many are on the baseline? Because they're not the same, and it's not equal. But in American female sport, they have capped the amount of money a team can actually then pay their players. Now, they moved that from 421,000 to 650,000. And in 2020, the Women's National Soccer League did make that decision to boost their salaries and to allow them to take in other players. But that still only meant, and I say the word only, but it meant that the maximum salary increased to 50 grand. The league eventually decided to allow 9 teams to use up to 300. It would give them an opportunity. They bid for equal play. They went to court over this, the teams, numerous teams, not just Megan. She tends to kind of get the finger pointed at her for being the one to maybe cause the trouble by bringing these issues to the fore. And that's, again, largely because she has a platform to do that. The lawsuit was filed by 28 women's national team players. 28, not one. And it was brought to the courts. Eventually, they passed through one court and then eventually got to the Supreme Court, which denied the act. So the ruling, as you can see, that they've been paid more on both a cumulative and average per game basis than the men's team over that period. Sorry about the typo. Now, all you need to do is Google the success of the women's team versus the success of the men's. And you can argue that men's soccer earns more money anyhow. American male soccer doesn't. It just brings in more money because it's men playing the game. People can argue with me on that point in class, hopefully. And Trump, probably not a word you were expecting to see in the middle of a case study on a female athlete. However, in an interview, she told a reporter she wasn't going to the White House. Why would she? The White House doesn't represent who she is or what she stands for, or doesn't support many of the people that she would see as important both in her life and in the lives of millions of Americans. But just before the World Cup, this all exploded. And before the sort of opening match, she starts receiving abuse from Trump on Twitter. And you'll see some of these tweets just here. So Trump's coming up for election in a year and a half time. Obviously, that's next month. And he has time to start abusing the captain of his national team. Now, if anybody doesn't see an issue with that, that's fair enough. Personally, I think it throws up lots of different queries and questions around this. Be proud of the flag that you wear. The USA is doing great, is his final tweet. It caused uproar, international uproar, media uproar. It got a lot of traction and threw a lot of attention, both negative and some positive, in Megan's direction prior to one of the biggest games of her career. I'm going to finish up here. This is just a general introduction. I'm going to post up some journal articles. The Sports Illustrated article I'd really like you to read, but I'd also like you to try and find this particular video and watch it. It's her speech when she's accepting the award. And I really don't think you'd find any other male athlete, whether you again agree with this, using this as a platform for making these comments, but I really don't think you get very many athletes, not in soccer in particular, making these kind of points. And also having the balls to call other people out. So thanks for listening. Hopefully this wasn't too painful and we can improve on them as the weeks go on. But take away some of the main sociological themes that we have in our course outline. We're looking at the history of the sport. We're looking at gender. We're looking at politics. We're looking at social class and race. And we're looking at deviance. So they're the kind of key themes, key topics. And I want you to kind of jump in on them. Also, for any art students that might be listening, have a look at sort of the fashion side of things too, and see where that sort of aligns itself with female sponsorship in sport. Again, thanks for listening.